is the question on everyone's mind. Could the next conflict break out between China and the Philippines? As Beijing flouts international law, the Philippines says it won't yield an inch.
China out of Philippine waters! China out!
It's an assertion of our maritime entitlement in the South China Sea. It's an effort of an archipelagic state to defend its archipelagic waters. And the threat that we're experiencing right now from Chinese maritime expansion is depriving us of the life and blood of an archipelagic state.
中方对侵权挑衅行政保持了足够的克制，但这也是有限度。
If a Filipino citizen is killed by a willful act, that is, I think, very, very close to what we define as an act of war.
Dr. Henry Kissinger told me time and again that the First World War started without anybody planning for it. It just step by step. Small conflict became a global war.
We're walking towards the old Clark Base, America's largest overseas air base for nearly 5 decades. It's 2 hours north of Manila, 1 hour from Subic Bay. With China undermining Philippine sovereignty in the South China Sea and Manila turning toward its US alliance, we're here to find out what direction the Philippines is going in. Clark, the US military's Asian stronghold during the Cold War. Now largely commercialized, but still steeped in history. This runway, part of the original airfield, bombed in 1941, the same day as Pearl Harbor.
No need to underline that the Japanese bombs did their work well. You see it. Get it like a heavy...
But by 1992, the Americans were gone. Some say Filipinos were tired of the troop presence. Others say the Philippines did not want them to go.
I think a sizable number of them were just upset by the fact that the Philippines did not get the right amount of military and economic assistance. At that time, the US Congress was already hesitant to increase.
What happened next is a lesson in great power politics.
What happened a few months after the Americans left, China came out with its territorial law, and in 1995, Chinese forces were discovered on Mischief Reef. This was a shock to the Filipinos.
Now, Mischief Reef is one of several militarized Chinese bases. One of the first links in a chain of events that has led to today's flashpoints. In 1999, Manila grounded the Sierra Madre on 2nd Thomas Shoal. In 2012, China seized Scarborough Shoal. All lie within Manila's exclusive economic zone and Beijing's historical 9-dash line. Former US Sergeant Major Jim Collins, whose veterans post previously managed the Clark Cemetery, shows us around.
Our relationship right now with the Philippine people is very strong.
The past was more complex. More than 8,000 souls are buried here, the earliest from 1900, from after the end of the brutal Philippine-American War. That Filipino defeat began 4 decades of US control to the end of World War II.
During the war, that relationship became a partnership relationship. During the Vietnam War, Clark and Subic were critical supply points to help sustain the war in Vietnam.
In 2022, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. tried to continue Rodrigo Duterte's closeness to Beijing, but the visit didn't stop Chinese threats to Philippine sovereignty at sea.
At the start of his term, he talked about a balanced relation. We focus on China when it comes to economics. We rely on the United States when it comes to security. China will have none of these things. From the Chinese perspective, once we have your pocket, we're entitled to subjugate you.
In 2023, Manila turned back to its US security alliance, America's oldest mutual defense treaty in Asia. Marcos opened up another 4 military sites to rotating US forces, bringing the total to 9. And in June, American F-35s were spotted taking off from Clark.
The facility is fantastic. It has a humongous munitions storage area. And so for U.S. forces, it is a great location to have access to. My understanding of talking to the Clark Air Base commander was that he believes there will be a second runway built in June 2024. The Filipino government also announced that they're going to take back the Subic International Airport at QB Point, which is within the Subic Naval Base. It's a fantastic airfield. They are going to convert that back into a military airfield because of its location, its distance to the Hainan Island, its distance to all the contested areas in West Philippine Sea.
China is reacting angrily.
The rhetoric is they're being encircled, and whatever they're doing is purely for defensive purposes. Now, of course, that's funny when you look at when it's down to the Philippines and China. Clearly, the Philippines has no capability to threaten China, so they have to make it look as if the Philippines is just a tip of the spear.
For the first time, the majority of Filipinos support military action to counter Beijing. Surveys show consistent approval of Marcos's approach to China after 6 years of Duterte's appeasement policy.
Our relationship right now with the Philippine people is very strong. It goes up and down based on administration's mistakes and based on the administrations here in the Philippines.
If Sara Duterte won office in 2028, would she alter the country's course?
Unlike her father, she's not very anti-American. Her father was primarily driven more by his anti-Americanism and being pro-Chinese. So in this case, it's simply difficult to determine how she would basically behave because Sara Duterte is not Rodrigo Duterte.
At the Shangri-La Dialogue, Marcos spoke of the agency of middle powers like the Philippines.
It has become even more crucial for us to assert that the future of our region will be driven not by one or two powerful countries, but by all of us. We must shape the rules. We must build those bridges.
Instead of us just listening to the Americans telling us, oh, you know what, to prevent the Chinese, we need to do the following 10 points. We have to do it with our own strategic agency, not just an extension of American power. The Philippines also has to be more independently capable.
Of all countries, the Philippines understands independence. 3 centuries of Spanish imperialism, 4 decades of US colonization, the Japanese during World War II, and now China's occupation of what Beijing insists is Chinese territory under its 9-dash line.
We have to hold the line so that the next generation of Filipinos would still say, we need to continue the fight because this is the fight that even the national heroes before we had independence is what they fought for.
The feeling you get of the Philippines is a nation that will hold the line and, if necessary, fight back for its sovereign rights. The world is watching because the direction the Philippines takes has consequences for the whole world.